to go on to the afternoon presentation, and as I said earlier, I've assigned someone to be Wisaki-chan. Now, most people think Wisaki-chan was a man, but you'll be surprised to know that he wasn't. And you'll also be surprised to know that he wasn't Indian either. So, Sharon Friesen, Dr. Friesen from University of Calgary, is going to lead us to her summarizations. Please welcome Dr. Sharon Friesen, Vice Dean of Oakland School of Education, University of Calgary.
Thank you. I don't know what kind of lusty chuck I made. However, thank you for the honor of being named one. So I'd like to first of all acknowledge the elders, the Grand Chief, the Chiefs, Dale and Kaya and Rose, who I've all had the opportunity to meet. And I'd like to also acknowledge all of you who told your stories, whose stories were heard, the speakers, and the people from the groups who met together yesterday and started to define what an education system that worked for you might need, and some additional action steps in order to achieve that. So one of the things I wanted to do, and I think I can add to the layers that you have put onto this, your work already, is to just take you back for a little bit, to take a look at the current system that we have within schooling, and I'm going to call it schooling and not education, because education, as you've already defined, is a lifelong endeavor. That is completely consistent with research. We start learning before we are born, and we continue to learn throughout our entire lifetime. Our brains are flexible and malleable, and it has already been shown that we can learn anything at any point in our lives if we set our mind to it. So a system of education has to be throughout a person's lifespan and not just a short period of time. But that segment of time from a person's lifetime of age 5 to age 18 that we call school, I think it's really important for a couple of things that you understand. Number one, it was a created system. We actually know who created it. They have a name. He developed the system and the organization and the structure at a point in time when what was needed was a factory worker, and he created the system that we inherited from the Bethlehem Steel Company. It was designed to create efficient workers for the factory line. And in the system that he created, he designed grades to mark as stations on the factory line. And people, what he did in terms of putting in time studies, he found that what people could stand is about 57 to 58 minutes at one station. What he found is people stopped being efficient after that point, and what he called it is the amount of time that someone could endure boredom before they could move on. Our system was set up under that. We call it a class. So the entire structure of our schooling, which we inherited, comes out of that. The grades, the marks, the timing, when we go to school, what counts as a credit, what doesn't count as a credit. All of those things were created by one person for a factory line. He went on and worked with Henry Ford after he worked in the Bethlehem Steel Company. And both the US government and the Canadian government at that time, so the province of Ontario and Quebec decided this was a really good system, and they imposed it on Rupert's Land. And so that particular system, everything that has been said about what's wrong with that system for today you are exactly right. Those are exactly the points. That is exactly what's wrong. We do not create interchangeable widgets for a factory line. That's not who our children are. So as you've come forward and identified that, and it's not working, that is true. The other thing that you need to know is what we call the subjects in schools. Those subjects, math, sciences, so the identification of physics, biology, chemistry, social studies of history, economics and political science, and some physical geography, and language, reading and writing, were also decided upon in the late 1980s. And they have not changed since that time. Nobody has looked at them or called them into question. We just accept them and keep on going. They're not working, but we just keep on doing the video from this Spence group was really, really powerful because it shows what's not working for your people, but it also shows in returning back and building the bridge, it can't be built on what is in place. So that curriculum, the what, the timing, the credits of that were decided in about mid to late 1800s by a committee of 10 people who sat together, spent 1 year together and came up with it. We have lived with that ever since. One of the things that I've learned from being here is this committee in this room is more than 10 people, and you can do a whole lot better than what was just handed to us. So across Canada, and what was once called Rupert's Land and is now the lands west of Ontario, for which a manufacturing education system was built, is not working. The citizens of Alberta have said that. When they were consulted in 2009, 99% of over 2,000 people who were brought together said the system of education is no longer working, of schooling, that's no longer working. The province of Alberta has not responded to that yet. You have an opportunity to step in and create your own system that works for your people. But what you have to understand is the system that is in place was also created, and it was created in total by about 11 people and then maintained by thousands of others. So what started there, Canada agreed with the United States that that was a good system. It was put in place in Canada, spread throughout Canada, but it also spread throughout the world. The person who created it, Frederick Taylor, the structure of that, did his work in Bethlehem School, at Bethlehem Steel Company, but he was trained by the Prussian government and by the Prussian military. So when he came in with those ideas. I think it's really important to know that you have the agency at this point in time. You also have the research backing. So throughout the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development Nations, of which Canada belongs, they have been studying for the last 6 years and researching internationally a different system of education. Looking at school was built on a factory model, that's why many schools look like factories. Thinking about how they don't look like that, if indeed what you decide is what you need is a school. The ages for which you bring people together needs to be revisited. But you have all the research backing to do that. When you say our people are our resources, you are speaking in the same way that the country of New Zealand and the country of Singapore did. They said, we actually have no resources. Our people are our resources. We will design a system of education that works with our people, for our people, on behalf of our people, because our people are the most important. And so there are countries that have made some moves already, quite significant moves. So their curriculum is not prescribed. It's built on principles, and it's built on competencies. What they started with is, what does it mean to be a good, resourceful person in our community? When we look at the wise people in our community, when we look at the people who know what they need, how to get it, how to survive, how to be good, how to be a good person, what is that person? So what they set up is initially that image. And then they said, okay, how do we create a system? What do we put in so that we have our young people have the best possible chance of being the good person in our society? And so what I've heard from your groups is that's the work that has gone on. The elders have put some things forward, the women's group, the youth, each of your various groups have put ideas for the various speakers who've been at this forum as well. One of the things that we know out of the current education system, and that's part of my research, is that we turn out people after many years of education who have no sense of belonging, or very little. They don't know who they are. They're trying to figure out how to be an adult. The sense of connection, the sense of belonging is not there. One of the things that is moving right at this point within and throughout education is looking to ecology to help to inform what's needed. So when people say, and I heard Rose say it again this morning, our kids don't all learn the same way. And they don't all learn at the same time. When you think about an ecosystem, and you think about the diversity that is needed to create a healthy, thriving ecosystem, then you're positioned in a strong way to begin the work. So it doesn't segment. And it doesn't silo either. It also recognizes when you're in there that knowledge is constantly changing. It's animate. So it's not static. It's not things you take in and memorize. They are things you take in and make memorable because they make an impression on your life. And they change who you are, how you belong, how you relate to each other, and they create a sense of belonging. So thinking about that, knowing that other countries have moved already, other groups are moving, and it doesn't diminish in any way. In fact, what it does is create strong, healthy, powerful people. In not thinking about classrooms, thinking about learning environments, OECD and there's significant research that says when we think about a healthy learning environment, what might that look like? Well, if it's not a classroom with desks and rows, what is it? And all the new learning environments that have been created, and there's a fair number of them internationally, some that I visited in New Zealand, some in Singapore, some in Australia, some in Finland. They look like outside and inside merged. They're not rooms with desks in them, with kids filling out pieces of paper. That's not what's in them. So thinking about how you want your learning environments to look. There are images available that you can work on, but you probably have some very, very good ones yourselves. So when I look at all the pieces that you're looking at, and many of you, through your various groups, through your conversations, from what you've said, you've identified a number of the obstacles that are keeping you from getting there. But I think one of the biggest obstacles that you will face is fear. It's going to take courage to face the fear, to step forward, to say, as we work together, we can stand together and we can create that. It's going to take leadership, but you've got the leadership in the room. So when you talk about the right to education, you have that, but what's most important is the right is not sufficient. You also need to be able to identify what is the quality of that education that you need for your children to thrive and be healthy and whole in this world as Cree people. And I think over the next while, as you come together, what I've committed to Dale is to provide the research that is needed to be able to say, to support the directions that you take. The courage and the leadership to face this and to create it will come from you, and you will also be the ones who define what is. You actually hold that in hand. So I strongly encourage you to take that and to step forward, and we look forward to being an ally with you as you make those really important next moves. Thank you.